We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Captain America Iron Man Issue 1. This is a 2021 miniseries from Marvel Comics, written by Derek Landy, art by Angel Unzute. Color artist was Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by VC's Joe Caramanga, cover art by Alex Ross, edited by Alana Smith, with assistant edits by Martin Biro and Caitlin Lintervent. We start off years ago with Tony fooling around with some chick named Veronica, who was trying to get something funded, but Tony had no interest in that project. He was just looking for sex, but he did get her a job with S.H.I.E.L.D., and that ended up being a big mistake because Veronica Eden was actually an infiltrator believed to be working for Hydra, and she has some annoying banter that you would see on TV with the judge, whose name is Tee-Hee Judge. And on her way to be transported to jail, an alien named 51 shows up. He was part of the 50 State Initiative, and he starts breaking her out. But there's also some Hydra troops that help her escape, but thankfully Iron Man is on the scene, and so is Captain America. Unfortunately, they end up having to save a busload of people, and that allows Veronica Eden to escape. Now, they manage to track her down to a warehouse where 51 is apparently working for her to get something. We don't really know what his motivations are. He's an alien, and she doesn't understand what he's saying. And that's when the Paladins show up. They're apparently part of the 50 State Initiative that went rogue, and they're kind of goofy, lame heroes like Think Tank, who's just a floating brain and eyes. The Prima Donna, who's apparently like a powerhouse. Vox, who is some sort of undefined energy. And Pioneer, who's like an Old West chick with a gun that she only hits somebody with. She doesn't actually shoot anyone. That's weird. Then Iron Man and Captain America show up and things get crazy. Unfortunately, we're left with a cliffhanger ending that reveals Veronica's anti-superhero sentiments and probably part of a larger plan. Overall, the story was good. Veronica's dialogue is really obnoxious, though. She's snarky, stereotypical modern millennial speak from Twitter. Really not that original and very, very irritating. And her talk in the courtroom really wouldn't have been tolerated. Overall, though, the action was good. The story itself was fine. The artist needs a little bit of work, though. There's some really interesting issues with faces, mostly. I think that's partly due to it being digital art. So there are some posing issues with Captain America's arm in a few panels, but overall, I would say the artist has talent, just needs to refine that a little bit, and maybe don't use what looked like manipulated photos for highway scenes. Another issue I took was the paper quality is trash, as usual with Marvel, but there's also this multi-page gatefold insert that is really, really irritating. I hate those things. They're really bad. Even though it did advertise the Reckoning War, which has Jack of Hearts in it, and I am kind of intrigued by that. Unfortunately, it's written by Dan Slott, so I'm not going to buy it. But the insert is something that could easily get ripped up, so I'd be aware of that if I were buying this used. But overall, I think the artist has some potential, just needs more work. It's not really ready for prime time. This is more indie art that could use a lot more refinement before it hits the big two, but Marvel's quickly becoming a second-rate publisher. But I thought the story was good. I'm going to pick up issue 2. Like I said, the only real complaint I have would be the dialogue from Veronica. It's a little too generic Twitter speak that is just boring and hackneyed, and it's not going to age well. It comes off as very pretentious and annoying. It's very unrealistic TV type talking. It's not how people actually talk in real life, and I found that frustrating. Plus, there's Growflex. If you can't use the swear word, don't use the little symbols. It's lazy. And in every case, it could have been deleted and it wouldn't have affected anything. So I thought that was a pretty big strike against it, because that usually is a betrayal of bad writing. But overall, I thought it was a good story. It was just a few minor things that need corrected and a little bit of art corrections that probably should have been done. But I enjoyed the story, and I will read issue 2. And the cover's great. It's Alex Ross. Unfortunately, it's just a pinup. It doesn't tell you anything about the story, but it is very well done. So I'll recommend it, but not at the cover price. $4 probably isn't unfair, but I think there's enough flaws that it probably does need a little bit more work. But if you can pick it up for a reasonable price, I'd say go for it. That'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links to my merch store and other support links are in the description. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one. Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Captain America Iron Man issue 2. This is a miniseries from Marvel Comics, written by Derek Landy, art by Angel Unzuta, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, cover by Alex Ross, assistant editors Martin Biro and Caitlin Lindevet, edited by Alana Smith. I really like that cover, it's pretty awesome. It does kind of give a good sense of what's going on in the book, that it's a team-up book. Beyond that, it's just a pin-up, but it's really cool looking. So Captain America and Iron Man are finishing up the cleanup. The Paladins are mad at them for interfering, although the one guy's trying to kind of play it nice. The others are kind of irritated that Cap and Iron Man showed up. They're trying to clean up after their own because 51, who's this alien, was working with Veronica and he used to be part of their team. But they can't really understand a lot of what he does or says because his telepathy is very limited and they're psychic. It can't understand the imagery in his head. So Veronica, for her part, is sort of the self-centered narcissist type that is constantly complaining, and she's upset because she doesn't really have any allies, which does relate to what's going on in the story. So when the Paladins move in on an old SHIELD facility in upstate New York that's disguised as a farmhouse, Cap and Iron Man show up to go in through a side entrance because they know the place better and stop these Hydra agents. Well, Veronica's in there with some gadgets of her own that are from some Spider-Man villains, and we learn that 51 is there after Cap's old Hydra armor from the evil Captain America from Secret Empire, but he doesn't hang around to find out what's going on. He just steals the Hydra Supreme costume and takes off. And the Paladins think that he is doing some sort of attack on Minneapolis, but there may be more to it than that. So Cap and Iron Man have to face off with Veronica and her amalgamation of spider villain equipment, which is a pretty rough fight because the Paladins show up too, and one of them gets a little gun happy, which doesn't make the others real keen on that. But it looks like there may be a bigger problem than Veronica, and that is Myrmidon, who Iron Man fought in apparently Iron Man number 29. I don't read the Iron Man book because Dan Slott's not that good of a writer for me. And Myrmidon and this thing called the Overseer have some sort of connection to Iron Man. They've encountered them before, but what connection that has to the Alien 51 is unclear, but it looks pretty interesting. Overall, this was a really fun issue. It was a good adventure story. The villain is arrogant and pretty unlikable, and she has these really annoying ways of talking, but there's some great interaction between Cap and Iron Man, and overall I thought the story was great. It was really fun. It was a good team up, and I think the art is largely good, but the artist needs to work on human faces a little more. They look a little too rigid occasionally too, like the arm positioning doesn't look quite right, and it looks very artificial. But the facial structure is the bigger problem for me, because sometimes people have weird expressions that don't look natural. It's very uncanny valley. But in costume, they look great. So I have to say that the art is actually a step up from last issue with some of the same minor issues, but it's not all the time. It's just a few panels here and there that could have been tweaked a little better. So I'm actually enjoying this, and I'm going to pick up issue 3. This is one of the better Marvel books I've read recently that's been new, so I'm going to recommend it. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to my merchandise store and other ways you can support me. And as always, hope to see you on the next one. Welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Captain America Iron Man issue 3. This is a miniseries from Marvel Comics, written by Derek Landy, art by Angel Unzuta, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, cover by Alex Ross. Assistant editors were Martin Biro and Caitlin Lindevet, edited by Alana Smith. Alright, we start off where we left off with Veronica being detained by Cap and Iron Man. We get this long verbose info dump at the beginning and a lot of navel gazing. Veronica likes to babble incessantly, and it's really annoying. She's a very obnoxious person, and she comes off as very unlikable. Well, she's a villain, so I guess that's okay. Then Steve and Tony have a bonding moment, which is kind of weird. And then the Paladins have a lot of self-esteem issues, and they come off as very desperate for attention and kind of pathetic, which is sad because they seem like they're actually interesting characters, or could be, and they they really come off as very needy and requiring a lot of personal validation. And Captain America gives them some good advice, but they don't really listen. And that's probably going to backfire. So we have to see the Paladins have a bunch of internal strife for a little while, and then we jump over to some actual action where Cap and Iron Man are taking on Myrmidon, and we find out what the actual goal here really is. And we see an old Iron Man villain called the Overseer pop back up, and that plot's actually pretty interesting. So about halfway through the book, it starts getting really good. We find out what 51 was really up to, and we're left with a cliffhanger ending. About half of this book really was kind of pointless. It was a lot of jibber jabber that didn't need to be in there. Some of it was fine, but they really dragged it out a little too long, especially with the Paladins. They're almost breaking past supporting cast in this and becoming a little more important, which is a little annoying because the book's called Captain America and Iron Man. So their interpersonal nonsense really was irrelevant and should have been kind of cut down a little bit, and their insecurities were a little bit obnoxious by the end, and Veronica is just irritating. But overall, it's not written badly, it's just got a lot of fluff in this issue, but the scenes where they're fighting Myrmidon were pretty good, and the twist ending was good. So there's a lot of good structure stuff here, but a lot of padding as well. So I think this issue really could have lost about half the pages and been more interesting. It really needed to be condensed, and I think that's the fault of the editors, because a lot of the action stuff could have been expanded upon to make it a little more exciting, and the early personal interaction stuff could have been toned down significantly to allow for that to happen. So I didn't hate it, but it was definitely a more tepid issue than the others. And the artist did a pretty good job on this one, except he really needs to work on Captain America's chin, because that looks freakishly weird more often than not. So kind of a mixed bag. It's a weak issue in a miniseries, but there is enough stuff moving the plot forward to kind of make it worth reading. So I would say pick it up at less than cover price, and maybe you'll be okay with it. You could read this one on its own, which is kind of nice. These issues have been pretty consistent good about giving you enough plot to work with that each issue could stand alone pretty well, but this is definitely the weakest one so far. I will recommend it if you're going to read the series, just pick it up cheap. That'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for your support. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and as always, we hope to see you on the next one. Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Captain America Iron Man issue 4. This is a miniseries from Marvel Comics, written by Derek Landy, art by Angel Unzuda, color art by Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by VC's Joe Caramanga, cover by Alex Ross, assistant editor Martin Biro, and Caitlin Linsvet, edited by Alana Smith. I like that cover, it's cool. It actually tells you a little bit about what might be going on in the book, but that scene doesn't really apply. So Cap and Iron Man are trapped on the ship, hunted by several Myrmidons. 51 is injured, and Cap has to don the Hydra armor in order to even stand a chance. Meanwhile, Veronica and the Overseer have a little conversation, which is really dumb. 51 gets turned over to his friends, and Cap is basically alone on this corrupted SHIELD helicarrier, and he has to recruit Veronica to try and help him. Meanwhile, Tony's confronting somebody that was involved, and he learns a very shocking secret that there is in fact a betrayal. We're left with a cliffhanger ending, and it's kind of dark. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good issue. It did have a lot of really good parts. Veronica's still toxic and annoying hipster, but overall, it was a pretty fun book. The twist I really didn't see coming, which I'm kind of on the fence about that one. It could be cool or it could be really dumb, but I'm ready to check it out. This issue is definitely better than last issue, and although I don't think these issues are really worth $4, I think it's a pretty fun story, and it's definitely worth grabbing out of a discount bin. So I'm looking forward to see how it wraps up. Hopefully it's not going to have a really super dark ending, but overall pretty solid work. The art's okay. There's a few quibbles I have with it, but nothing major. It's better than a lot of the Marvel art. Still kind of subpar for what Marvel should be doing, but I've seen a lot worse in the indies, and for a Marvel book this was a pretty entertaining story, so I'm willing to kind of give a little bit of a pass to the art. So I will recommend it if you like Captain America and Iron Man. This has has a bit more of an old style comic feel as opposed to the new whiny navel-gazing deconstructionist nonsense that's been going around comics. So if you're looking for something with Captain America or Iron Man that's got some adventure, this is probably the best you're going to hope for at this point. So that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to different ways to support me. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one. Welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Captain America Iron Man issue 5. This is a 5-part miniseries from Marvel Comics, written by Derek Landy, art by Angel Unzeta, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by VC's Joe Caramanga, cover art by Alex Ross. Assistant editor was Caitlin Lintvent, edited by Alana Smith, editor-in-chief CB Cebulski. Cover's fantastic, I have no issue with it, except that it's just a pinup. There's no telling me what's going on in the book, but it's really well done. So we get a little bit of a recap of what's going on as Iron Man flies to try and save 51. Unfortunately, things are far from over as the Myrmidons are attacking Captain America and Veronica. Cap has to give her a lecture on what it means to be a hero, and it's about responsibility, and he basically paraphrases Spider-Man quite a bit, even alludes to him, just never mentions him by name. Now, thankfully, it looks like 51 can communicate with machines, so there might be a resolution here. Unfortunately, Iron Man and Captain America still have to face off with the Paladins. Now, things get resolved pretty quickly, but Veronica is still a bit of a problem, although some of her attitude may have changed. And we are left with an illusion that there may be a sequel to this. Overall, I thought it was a pretty decent miniseries. It had a few flaws, but nothing I was too upset about. My main complaint would be the art needs a little bit of work yet. It's not really ready for prime time. It would be good indie art, but it's a Marvel book, so it should be better than it is. The artist has progressed. There's definitely some improvements on the way that Captain America was drawn over the last several issues, and he doesn't have quite the weird butt chin that he had in the first couple. So they've improved on that quite a bit. The perspective shots are definitely better, and I think overall they have the look down, but there's still a little bit of background clash versus the characters that probably needs to be worked out a little bit, which could probably be done with shading and kind of toning down the brightness of the colors so that the contrast isn't so noticeable. But overall, it was a pretty fun story. I would say get it out of a back issue bin. It's not really worth $4 considering that it's just not that compelling, but it's not bad. It's better than a lot of the current Marvel stuff, and there's a lot less of the SJW stuff, and most of the really whiny social justice stuff comes out of the villain's mouth. I was okay with that, and it was a basic fun adventure story. So if you can pick it up cheap, I would say get it, check it out. It's good back issue bin material. Grab it out of a dollar bin for $1 or $2, and I think it's definitely worth that. It'd probably be more fun in trade paperback where you could get the whole story, but I would definitely say get that at a reduced price as well. The single issues, however, are definitely not worth $4, and like I said, $2 is about the most I think most people would want to pay for this, and that's largely because of the paper quality and the shortness of the issues. But it's worth a read. That'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to different ways you can support me, and as always, we hope to see you on the next one.